Hi guys, Forgotten Wolf here, and this is episode number 9 now of the Life of series, and this time we are covering the life of Stannis Baratheon, the rightful and one true king of the Seven Kingdoms. Before we begin, we are covering Stannis' life from start to finish, so let's get straight into it. Like Catelyn, if you remember, we don't exactly know the year of Stannis' birth. However, based on the fact that Robert Baratheon was 10 years older than in the books, we can assume the same was done for Stannis, meaning by rough estimate, Stannis was born in 254 AC to Lord Stephen Baratheon and Lady Casenna Estermont. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Growing up, Stannis had one older brother in Robert Baratheon and one younger brother in Renly Baratheon. When Stannis was just 4 years old, his father, Stephen Baratheon, took Robert and Stannis to King's Landing. Stannis needed to hold Robert's hand as they entered the throne room, and Robert and Stannis both thought the man sitting the throne was Tywin. He was Tywin Lannister, hand to King Aerys at the time. It looked like a true king, basically. However, in 278 AC, Stannis would witness the most tragic event of his childhood, being the death of his parents. King Aerys II had sent Robert's parents to Volantis to find a Valyrian bride for the crown prince Rhaegar Targaryen. His parents were unsuccessful. When they were returning to Storm's End, Robert and Stannis watched as their parents' ship was caught in a storm, which crushed the ship and killed both of Stannis' parents. Stannis lost all faith in the faith of the Seven the day his parents died, according to him, and the loss of his parents deeply affected Stannis. However, the next event in his life would forever change the Seven Kingdoms. Robert's rebellion was fought in 283 AC. That's why we're jumping straight into it. And by now you know the story. Rhaegar Targaryen kidnapped Lyanna Stark, while King Aerys executed Lord Rickard Stark and his son and heir Brandon Stark. This caused Lord Jon Arryn, Ned Stark, and Stannis' older brother Robert to rebel against the Iron Throne. Stannis struggled deeply with his loyalty because he swore an oath to the Iron Throne and the crown, but he also swore to defend and hold Storm's End for his older brother Robert. Stannis chose his brother, and he sat on Robert's council while the war was still in the Stormlands. However, following Robert's defeat at the Battle of Ashford, Stannis had to hold Storm's End while it was under siege by Lord Mace Tyrell and Lord Paxter Redwyne. For more information on the siege of Storm's End, I made a video on that, so go check it out on the siege of Storm's End. Anyways, back to Stannis. The siege was brutal, as Stannis and Renly had to eat their dead animals because they ran out of food at one point. Stannis earned a huge reputation as a true and really good battlefield commander from the siege, as despite all odds he held on to Storm's End till the end of the war. This was also thanks to Davos Seaworth, who smuggled onions and fish from King's Landing into Storm's End. Overall, Stannis' actions at Storm's End arguably won Robert the war, as it kept the huge Tyrell army out of the Battle of the Trident. However, Stannis was not able to get a hold on the last two Targaryens, Viserys and Daenerys, as the two escaped to Braavos. This led Robert to strip Stannis of Storm's End, making Stannis the Lord of Dragonstone, where Renly got Storm's End. This angered Stannis, as Stannis felt that Storm's End was rightfully his, and it was. It should have been his. But Robert didn't do it for no reason, as he needed someone strong to hold Dragonstone in the ancient Targaryen seat. After Robert's rebellion, Stannis moved to King's Landing to serve on Robert's small council as the Master of Ships. Stannis didn't love Robert, and he did it out of duty, much like his relationship with his wife. Stannis Baratheon was married to Slyth Florent between the years 283 and 287 AC. Stannis and his wife didn't like each other at all, but they did have only one sickly daughter, being Shireen, born around 287 AC. Shireen had grayscale and was the only person Stannis seemed to deeply care about in his life. Anything that Shireen could be given to help her was given, but only 2 years after her birth, Stannis returned to war, as in 289 AC, Greyjoy's rebellion broke out, with Balon Greyjoy declaring himself the king of the Iron Islands. Stannis played a crucial role in winning the war, as Stannis won the sea battle of Fair Isle, which destroyed the Iron Fleet. This made the Iron Throne's victory over the Greyjoys inevitable. Thanks to Stannis, Robert, and Ned Stark, the Greyjoys were crushed. Stannis wanted Robert to execute Balon and the rest of House Greyjoy. Instead, Robert listened to Ned Stark and spared Balon while making Balon's last surviving heir, Theon, go to Winterfell as ward and hostage to Ned Stark. After Greyjoy's rebellion, the realm was at peace for a further 8 to 9 years. However, Stannis had suspicions that Robert's 3 kids, Joffrey, Marcella, and Tommen, weren't actually Robert's, as the 3 bore a striking resemblance to their mother, Cersei Lannister, and almost no resemblance to Stannis or Robert themselves. Stannis told this to Jon Arryn, who investigated, but then he unexpectedly died. Stannis expected Robert to name him the new Hand of the King, but when Robert chose Ned Stark as the new Hand of the King, Stannis sulked off to Dragonstone, where he remained for the whole of Season 1 of Game of Thrones. This brings us to 299 AC, or Season 2 of Game of Thrones. Upon Ned Stark's execution, the War of the Five Kings began. Stannis proclaimed himself the one true king of the Seven Kingdoms, declaring that Joffrey, Tommen, and Marcella were born of incest between Cersei and Jaime Lannister. He sent that letter to every lord and castle in Westeros. However, many defied him. The North had already proclaimed Robb Stark to be the king in the North. The Iron Islands made Balon Greyjoy king again, while the Tyrells chose to marry Margaery Tyrell off to Renly Baratheon to unite the Reach and Stormlands, while making Renly Baratheon, Stannis' younger brother, king. Stannis also took up with the Red Priestess Melisandre, as she told him that he was the prince who was promised that would bring peace and unity to Westeros, although she was actually wrong about this. Stannis didn't let this treason stand, however. While the North would bend the knee to Stannis if he killed the Lannisters in King's Landing, they wouldn't directly help him. Stannis went to Storm's End to battle Renly instead. In reality, the Battle of Storm's End wasn't a battle. Stannis made a shadow baby with Melisandre, which he used to kill his younger brother Renly. That made Stannis Baratheon a kinslayer, while also putting Brienne of Tarth on a quest for revenge, but that's for later. The Tyrells fled back to their home of Highgarden, while Stannis got the support of the whole Stormlands. And next, it was on to King's Landing and to hopefully take the Iron Throne. Stannis then made Davos Seaworth his Hand of the King, and this leads into the Battle of Blackwater Bay. Stannis Baratheon laid siege to King's Landing, but Tyrion Lannister used wildfire to blow up a majority of his ships. This didn't stop Stannis, who began ramming the gates of King's Landing. Tyrion Lannister tried to stop them, but he ended up fainting on the battlefield when wounded. The battle looked to be won by Stannis when the Tyrell Lannister army arrived to King's Landing to come in and stop the siege and win the battle. Thanks to an agreement reached by Littlefinger, Joffrey Baratheon would wed Margaery Tyrell, putting Sansa Stark aside, and in return the Tyrells would help Tywin Lannister to crush Stannis at the Battle of Blackwater Bay. Stannis' army was indeed crushed as he fled back to Dragonstone with the limited ships he had. Stannis does almost nothing in seasons 3 through 4 slash 300 to 301 AC, but during those years, Stannis sent Melisandre to find someone to use his blood magic. Melisandre found Robert's bastard son Gendry, and Melisandre leeched him, and Stannis Baratheon wished misfortune to the other 3 kings left, Joffrey Baratheon, Robb Stark, and Balon Greyjoy. However, before Stannis could execute Gendry, Davos Seaworth freed Gendry, I just yawned there, sending him to hide in King's Landing. Stannis intended to execute Davos for treason, but Davos saved his life when he brought word of the Night's Watch plea to all the kings to help them against the wildlings. Stannis spared him, but misfortune would end up befalling Robb Stark and Joffrey Baratheon. Robb Stark was killed at the Red Wedding, betrayed by the Boltons, while Joffrey was poisoned and killed at the Purple Wedding, and later Balon Greyjoy would die 1 year later. Stannis then left Dragonstone to go to the Wall to the aid of the Night's Watch. Stannis got to Castle Black just in time, as he was able to crush the wildlings under the command of Mance Rayder in 301 AC and win the battle for the Wall. At the Wall, he did find Ned Stark's bastard son, Jon Snow. Stannis going to the Wall wasn't just to save the realm from the wildlings. Stannis wanted to win the support of the North, as the northern houses hated the Boltons for betraying the Starks. Stannis wanted Jon to set aside his Night's Watch vows, and in exchange, Stannis would make Jon a Stark by royal decree and the Lord of Winterfell. This would win the North to his side, and he could crush the Boltons in 302 AC. so wanted to spare Mance later, as if Mance bent the knee, the wildlings would fight with Stannis against the Boltons. However, both Jon and Mance refused Stannis. Jon Snow was made Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, and he chose his vows over revenge for his family, while Mance Rayder refused to betray everything he believed in, leading to Stannis executing him in 302 AC. This left Stannis screwed, as he tried to remain determined to continue the war effort, but in Season 5, Stannis tries to take Winterfell, and the war effort already looking seriously bad. Stannis turned to Melisandre to give a good sign from R'hllor. She told him to burn his own fucking daughter, and Stannis somehow agreed to this. Dude, what are you doing? Stannis burnt his own daughter alive, which demoralized his men and sealed his fate. On top of burning his own daughter, many of the sellswords fled with Stannis' horses as Ramsay Bolton raided Stannis' camp. And on top of this, Stannis' wife Selyse committed suicide. This leads into the Battle of Ice, where Stannis was soundly defeated, his army completely crushed. Only 2 people survived Stannis' camp, being Melisandre, who fled to the Wall, and Davos Seaworth, who was already at the Wall. Stannis didn't die in the battle. Instead, he was executed by Brienne of Tarth in an act of vengeance to avenge the late Lord Renly Baratheon, her king. That ends the life of Stannis Baratheon. Stannis made a huge impact, as his actions won 2 wars for his older brother Robert, but Stannis is also regarded as a kinslayer for what he did to his younger brother Renly. Stannis' biggest impact, I would say, is saving the Night's Watch at the Battle of the Wall, while also teaching Jon what true leadership was like. However, that does it for me. Next time in the Life of series, I will do the life of Lyanna Stark, as we finish the Robert's Rebellion miniseries and finish the specials for Game of Thrones' 15th anniversary. But until then, bye!